I had the idea, I had the skills, and I had a version that was somewhat functional, but I couldn't keep making headway by myself. Time is the eternal enemy of the mortal, and it was time to bring in reinforcement. One of my friends, Jace, told me to sign up for YC Startup School, which I did, and I was working through their curricula. Y Combinator strongly emphasizes the importance of a co-founder. I didn't have a co-founder for most of my last startups except for one. Uh, and my co-founder at the time was my girlfriend, which I would really not recommend. The co-founder gap was another miss on my checklist of patterns to match to improve my chances of success with Painpoint. So I signed up for Y Combinator co-founder matching and I cranked through profiles to see who could be a good candidate. But I don't really like meeting people online. It's a real crapshoot. You know, I love the internet, but it poisons a lot of people's brains and it's way too easy to be fake. I took calls. I met some great people. When I was visiting San Francisco, I met up with a few people in person. None of them that I would make an offer as a co-founder, more because of a divergence between what they wanted to build and what I wanted to build than as a statement of their capabilities. Most of them were very capable people. So I started calling friends again, asking them who would be a good co-founder. And I got a bunch of referrals and started interviewing these referrals. And one friend pointed me to a guy named Wes. I talked to Wes a couple of times and I found out that he had 3 prior companies over the last 20 years. He said they'd never taken venture investment, which was a good sign. Anyone that can build and exit multiple companies over decades without professional investment has a pretty good grasp of what it takes for a company to survive. And within a couple of conversations, Wes had started working on his own version of the project, which is another really good sign. He was motivated. One of the first things that he said was that a client hosted solution would take way too much work to turn on. For an MVP, we needed something that clients could turn on in a few minutes with basically no effort on their part. And he was right. He suggested that we move into a content delivery network model with a reverse proxy and build a Docker container as that proxy. Turning on the CDN would only take a few minutes of DNS changes for anyone to set up, and we could still deploy the container directly into the client environment when we had a client that wanted to do it that way. So client hosted was still going to be an option for us. He suggested we move away from our fixed location defined server host and move to fly.io, which is a cloud host, and that we move to a mono repo so that we could build all the elements of the app inside the same repo. He suggested that we automate our build and deploy processes through GitHub Actions, that we implement a tracking script option for the initial data collection so that people could test drive the analytics without having to turn over all of their routing to us. I could go on, but the point was that it was clear that Wes had the credentials, the experience, the motivation to just jump right in and start putting stuff together that we needed to take the demo from something that was working on my system to something that was living on the internet. Following the instruction from YC Startup School and the guidance from Founder Matchmaking, I offered Wes the co-founder role with 50% equity split and a 4-year vesting schedule. Typical 1-year cliff, 3-year monthly. I have my own twist, okay? I always do a 12-week evaluation period. That means either of us can break in the first 3 months for any reason, for no reason, no harm done, no hard feelings, no obligations. Let's just do a trial run, see how we feel about it. We have a 3-week check-in to make sure we're aligned, then a 6-week check-in, and then a 12-week check-in. And if we make it to the end without any serious concerns from either side, then we go ahead with a formal engagement and we backdate it to the start of the evaluation period. I've done this previously for every executive, every advisor, board member, employee, and contractor that I ever hired. It's helped highlight some issues early on and avoid committing until I know that we have a good working relationship. It's a great way to engage with somebody that you've not worked with before while still making sure you have an escape hatch if needed. So for those of you keeping track at home, I organized Pain Point in April of 24. I built my own demo by early June. Wes and I met in July, and we agreed to set August 1st as the start date of the trial period. We set a presumptive date of September 1st for the working MVP. But time is the enemy of the mortal.